Have you ever prayed for something so deeply, so desperately, that you felt your whole heart was resting on God's answer, yet heaven remained silent? You whispered through tears, you pleaded in faith, you waited with hope, but nothing changed. And the longer you waited, the more you wondered if God had forgotten you, or worse, decided not to answer at all. But what if the delay you fear is not the absence of God, but the strategy of God? What if His silence is not rejection, but preparation? Today, you will discover why the God who loves you sometimes chooses to wait. When God delays His answer, it is rarely because He is ignoring you. In Scripture, delay is almost always an act of divine intention, not divine neglect. God hears you the first time you pray, but He often responds in a time and way that aligns with a purpose much larger than the moment you are standing in. His delays shape your character, strengthen your faith, protect you from harm you cannot see, and position you for a blessing you are not yet fully prepared to carry. In this message, we will explore the spiritual reasons behind God's timing, why He sometimes allows circumstances to stretch longer than you expected, why the silence can feel unbearable, and why the waiting season is often the birthplace of the greatest breakthroughs in the Bible. By the end, you will see that God's "not yet" can be just as loving as His "yes." There are moments when you pray for God to move quickly, heal quickly, fix quickly, restore quickly, but instead of speeding things up, He seems to slow everything down. It feels cruel at first, almost confusing. But in Scripture, delay is often the very stage where God sets up a miracle far greater than the one you originally asked for. Sometimes He withholds the smaller blessing because He intends to reveal a larger one that could only be seen in the fullness of time, not in the immediacy of the moment. Consider the story of Lazarus in John 11. When Jesus heard Lazarus was sick, He did not rush to heal him. He stayed where he was for 2 more days. To Mary and Martha, the delay felt heartbreaking, unexplainable. But Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. It is for God's glory." The delay didn't prevent the miracle, it magnified it. Instead of witnessing a healing, they witnessed resurrection. Application. When God delays what you asked for, ask yourself, is God preparing a greater glory than the one I imagined? Sometimes the answer comes late because God intends it to shine brighter. When you pray, you often focus on the outcome, the job, the healing, the relationship, the breakthrough. But God, in His wisdom, focuses on you. He sees the parts of your heart that still need strengthening, the wounds that need healing, the fears that need quieting, and the faith that needs deepening. Sometimes the blessing is ready, but you are not yet ready to hold it. And because He loves you too much to give you something you cannot sustain, He waits. Psalm 37:7 says, "Be still before the Lord, and wait patiently for Him." This waiting is not passive. It is the arena where God works inside you. Just as the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5:22-23, patience, self-control, gentleness does not grow in comfort but in tension. God uses delay to cultivate the qualities that will protect your future blessings. Application. Ask yourself, if God gave me what I'm praying for today, would I be able to carry it with wisdom, humility, and strength? Sometimes the waiting isn't about the promise being delayed, it's about the person being developed. Not every delay comes from your circumstances, and not every delay comes from within you. Some delays happen because there is a real spiritual battle surrounding the very thing you are praying for. You may not see it with your eyes, but Scripture makes it clear. Heaven often moves instantly, yet the manifestation on earth is resisted. Your prayer can be answered in the spiritual realm long before you see it in the natural one. In Daniel 10:12-13, the angel tells Daniel, "From the first day you prayed, your words were heard, but the answer was delayed 21 days because a demonic principality resisted it." Think about that. Daniel wasn't waiting for God. God was waiting for the battle to break. Your unanswered prayer might not mean no. It might mean warfare. It might mean heaven is fighting for you in realms you cannot see. Application. Instead of concluding, "God didn't answer me," consider asking, "Lord, is there a battle around my breakthrough? And if so, don't give up. Lean in, stand firm, stay faithful." Some answers take time because victory takes time. One of the deepest reasons God delays is to gently loosen your grip on how you think He should answer and when you expect Him to act. We all carry silent expectations, timelines we never spoke out loud but built our hope upon. And when God does not move according to those internal schedules, disappointment rises, fear whispers, and faith feels shaken. Yet often, God is not resisting your prayer, He is reshaping your dependence. He is pulling you away from trusting your plan so you can trust His presence. Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways." God's delays are not accidents, they are recalibrations. And Proverbs 3-5-6 urges you to trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In other words, God delays to free you from the illusion that you are in control. Application. Ask yourself, do I trust God, or do I only trust Him when He follows my script? Delays often break the silent idol of self-timing so that when the answer finally comes, your trust will be rooted in God, not your expectations. One of the most painful yet transformative purposes of delay is this. In the waiting, God reveals whether you desire the blessing more than the one who blesses. There are prayers you bring to God with sincerity, but hidden beneath them are motives, wounds, or expectations that are not yet aligned with His heart. Delay exposes what is driving your request. It purifies your desires. It clarifies what truly matters. And sometimes it gently redirects you from what you think you need toward what God knows you need. Paul experienced this in 2 Corinthians 12:7-9, when he begged God 3 times to remove the thorn in the flesh. God did not answer the prayer the way Paul wanted. Instead, He said, "My grace is sufficient for you." The delay and ultimately the redirection revealed that God's presence was the greater gift, not the removal of the thorn. Application. Ask yourself, if God says no or not yet, will I still trust Him, still love Him, still follow Him? Delays refine your desires until His will becomes your peace, not your disappointment. There are prayers you bring to God because you want an answer, but there are seasons when God withholds the answer because He wants you. Not the rushed version of you who prays and runs, not the anxious version of you who only seeks relief, but the still, surrendered, open-hearted you who sits in His presence long enough to be transformed. Delay has a way of stripping away distractions, exposing fears, and softening the places inside you that were too hurried to hear His whisper. In the waiting, God isn't just working on the situation, He is wooing your heart. David understood this deeply. In Psalm 27:4, he wrote, "One thing I ask of the Lord, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life." Notice David didn't just seek answers, he sought God Himself. And it was in that place of intimacy, not urgency, that David found strength for every battle ahead. Application. Ask yourself, has the delay drawn me closer to God or just closer to frustration? Sometimes The greatest miracle of a delayed answer is the relationship you rediscover while you wait. If you find yourself waiting for healing, waiting for clarity, waiting for restoration, waiting for a prayer that feels impossibly delayed, take heart. God's silence is not the sign of His absence. His delay is not a rejection. It is a masterful, intentional, loving part of His design for your life. Every moment you've spent wondering, questioning, or doubting has been held within His hands. He has been shaping you, protecting you, purifying you, and preparing you for a future that aligns not just with your desires, but with His perfect will. Look at Scripture. Lazarus was resurrected, Daniel received revelation, Paul found grace, David gained intimacy, and countless others discovered that God's "not yet" carried more power than they ever imagined. Your story is no different. What God begins, He finishes. What He promises, He fulfills. And what He delays, He perfects. So lift your heart in hope. Trust His timing even when you don't understand it. And if this message speaks to your spirit, comment below, "Lord, I trust your timing." If you need more encouragement for your journey, consider subscribing and sharing this message with someone who might be waiting too.